who's left then? Twitter's not, Google's not interested. Recode also reported that Apple's not interested and that Disney may not be interested as well. Does that just leave Salesforce?
Right, so I can confirm for you that Salesforce is still interested,
okay,
for one. So they're still in it, at least as of right now. I have not been able to independently confirm that Disney is for sure out. Google is an interesting case because Google doesn't really need to buy Twitter on its own in order to keep its current search partnership intact. The strategy for Google might be, let's buy Twitter now so that we can sort of keep this search tie forever. But if no one were to buy Twitter, then you could see strategically Google also not really needing to buy Twitter.
I see.
So there's a little bit of prisoner's dilemma game theory going on here with Google, where it would sort of make sense for Google to come out and say, we're not going to bid at this time, which is what Recode, in fact, reported. I can tell you from my sourcing, we reported that Google's working with Lazard. My sourcing around that has told me the entire time that there was never a firm commitment from Google that they were going to bid. So it is certainly possible they don't here, and they were just looking at Twitter and kicking the tires and moving on.
Will more bidders come in if it continues to fall at this pace? I mean, it's off by a fifth of its value today. So now it's worth less than $14 billion. I mean, surely someone will pick it up if it's 10, right? Facebook paid 19 for WhatsApp.
Right. So there's your question, Matt. Will it fall to 10? And it's something that we actually discussed on the Deal of the Week podcast several weeks ago, which is that Twitter, you could see Twitter as in sort of a Kafka-esque situation here, which is it never falls low enough.
Turning into a bug?
Yes, it turns into a cockroach instead of a bird. It never falls low enough for actually a company to come in and scoop it up, because there's always this M&A premium baked in from investors that assume it's going to be taken out. So it never actually falls to that $10 billion level. So again, we'll see here if that in fact happens, or if maybe there's just some impetus for Salesforce to say, look, if they are in fact the only game in town here, are they going to offer a low enough price where Twitter is going to say, well, that's still higher than, you know, 10 billion. We might as well just take it.
I have a chart here on my Bloomberg. It's G#BTV4082, and it looks like Twitter under the two different CEOs. Dick Costolo, of course, in the first part of the chart, and then Jack Dorsey. And of course, the stock IPO'd, or the company IPO'd during the Dick Costolo reign. Jack Dorsey has now taken the reins. He is, of course, also in charge of Square. Is there any possibility that Square could absorb this company?
None that I've heard. I have not heard that on the table at all. There is a possibility that you still might see an outside buyer come in here, but I can tell you that, like, one after another, all of the likely candidates, besides Facebook, I would say, have told Bloomberg in one way or another, or sources familiar with those companies, that they're not interested. So we've heard sources familiar with Microsoft say they're not interested in bidding at this time. Sources familiar with Comcast say they're not interested. You know, Verizon is a theoretical buyer. We've heard from sources familiar with Verizon say they're not going to buy. So it does feel a little bit right now that a deal is teetering if Twitter wants a big price. If Twitter is okay with selling without that huge price, then Salesforce is there.